Okay, I think this is up to me to be calling our budget committee meeting to order, and I will go ahead and Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, I am going to say thank you and then very quickly turn it over to Troy. I have had an opportunity to work with the directors on this budget amendment. Mostly working obviously with Troy. It's really fantastic to have such a great team that knows so much about this process. And I really have to say thank you for a biennial budget. I have been watching my colleagues struggling mightily and am truly appreciative of the wise decision to do this on a biennial basis and look at this amendment cycle as just a quick course correction if needed. And then really, because that then gives us the opportunity to really do the deep dive into what are the strategic priorities for the council starting early next year to really then have that feed into the biennial budget. And I can't tell you how important it is, I believe, just from a public policy standpoint, to make sure that the transparency and accountability associated with having very clearly articulated strategic priorities when it comes to budgeting is so important. It's how you connect with your community. It's how you connect with and prioritize your constituents' needs as well as the organizational needs. And it is just so much, it is infinitely easier, even if the answer is no, or the answer isn't what a constituent wants, if you are able to directly tie it to that strategic priority that's been collectively developed and very clearly articulated, it just makes things a lot easier moving forward. So all of that to say, Troy, this is your show. And I really like having a former state auditor as the finance director, I must say. So there you go. Take it away.
All right, thank you. And give me a sec while I share my screen. And are we seeing full presentation mode now? Outstanding.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time today. Again, this is might be a record for the Budget and Finance Committee meeting 2 times so close together in such a short period of time. So agenda for today, we started this party 2 weeks ago, and today we're going to keep it going. We'll do a quick recap of what we talked about last time, and then we're going to do a deep dive into a bunch of the specific budget amendment items. We'll hit on some coming attractions towards the end, and then talk about next steps, which will be the easiest part of the presentation. So feel free to, I do have some built-in stops to take questions, but feel free to interrupt anytime, especially because I tend to start talking fast and rambling and run out of breath. So just let me know if there's a question. Okay, so recap of the last time. We talked about how budgets are estimates, and we went through the results of the 2021-2022 biennium. Talked about how things change and sometimes opportunities present themselves that we didn't know about, and there'll be a couple examples of that in here. One of the biggest being the Talichan Homes project, which you're all aware of. Great opportunity with Habitat for Humanity and Department of Commerce and the city to collaborate on a great grant program. We also talked about some challenges with the lease at South Puget Sound with water resources, skyrocketing insurance costs, still facing a lot of inflationary pressures, and as well as supply chain challenges. Then we also talked about some unexpected things that can happen, some examples being the brewmaster, house fire, arson, fire roll-up door at the fire department, some things that make sense, like maybe some deferred maintenance on the fire department in the kitchen and on their flooring, police office, and the TMPD vehicles that were affected by the supply chain that we've been trying to get for 2 years. So that's that's the recap of last time, and now we'll get into some more details. Some of them the same as we start, Talichon Homes. And I bring these up because these are some big dollar items. So the total amendment request for 2023, I mean, really it's a biennial budget, but we're breaking this out by year because that's how my mind works. So 1.4 million, but of that 1.4 million, between the Talichon Homes project and the Brewmaster's House arson, that's about $1 million. So that's almost representative of the whole budget amendment. And the great thing about those two things is Talichon Homes is a grant, and we're going to get reimbursed for that. And the Brewmaster's House is covered by insurance, and so we're going to get reimbursed for all of that, less $5,000 for our deductible. Liability insurance, you'll see that on a lot of slides in here. The TMPD tracks again. We're also, since we didn't form an RFA, we now need to do a 5-year fire master plan. So that's in there. The police sergeant office that we talked about. Recording fees at the county are going up a lot. And then our audit costs have been going up also this year and next year both, and that'll probably continue at least in the short term. Part of that is just increasing governmental accounting standards, more things we have to do in finance for financial reporting. And as we do more of those things, it takes more time for the auditors to come in and check them and make sure we did them right. And then the other part of that is the grant programs. We've been very successful getting some of these federal grants, which is amazing. And then on the backside of that, we have to get a compliance audit to make sure we did everything correctly. So moving on now to the CFP. So this is for the ERP project, and this is not actually requesting additional funding. This is actually cost savings from 2022, but we want to move that forward because the project is continuing, and if we may end up needing those funds with a different module. So not an overall increase in funds, but since it spans a biennium, we need to add that to the budget. Some more carryover items. Water fund, AMS is the automatic metering service, I believe is what that stands for. And so that's meter replacements throughout the city. We're getting, or in most cases now have, newer meters that transmit data better straight to, not straight to City Hall, probably to the cloud first and then to City Hall. But anyway, big costs of that. A lot of that was done in 21 and 22. Some of that was finished up in 2023. Same with solarization projects. These are putting little solar panels at some lift stations and wellheads and things like that. And then over in Gulf, we had a problem with one of the big commercial refrigerators at River's Edge that we had to fix. And then also needed some temporary help in operations and maintenance over what was budgeted. And then the ER&R funds, you'll recall in the last, well, when we adopted the 23-24 budget, we split ER&R into fleet and IT so that we can better track those assets and expenses. And so the TMPD fleet vehicles show up again because they end up in ER&R. Insurance, the street sweeper replacement cost even more than we thought. And then another carryover thing, the EV charging stations at City Hall. Those were started in 2022 and we thought they would be complete. They were not completed on time. And so some of that cost ended up in 2023. So in total for 2023, we're looking at about 2.3 million, all funds combined. But we have increased revenue in the forms of grants and insurance reimbursements and things to offset a huge chunk of that. So a net budget increase of about 1.1 million. And I know $1 million is a big number, but given that our overall city budget for the year was about 111 million, that's about a 1% increase or 1% overage. So not too shabby. And we'll take that opportunity to pause for questions. Councilmember Dahlhoff.
Hi there. Thank you, Troy. I always appreciate your presentations because it just, our theme is how do we eat an elephant bite size? It really helps put all the pieces together. The one thing I've talked to, and I had sent you regarding potential like updates and things to think about are, and talk to the mayor and Lisa and council members, is senior repairs. And so I don't know, Mayor, is this the time to discuss that? The request for $25,000 for senior repairs.
Troy, what do you think? Is this Lisa? Or is, because I haven't seen your presentation yet, so.
I would think, actually, if we're talking about wanting to add that we would do that in when we talk about 2024. Because basically 2023 is sort of retroactive, what happened with our expenses in 2023. And so the next step that Troy's gonna talk about is what are the proposed amendments for 2024?
Right,
That's where
I'm assuming this slide, we're done. So that's why I'm saying moving for the 2024, where do you want me to fit that in that's what I'm asking, not for 2023.
yeah.
Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about it now because it's not included in the next few slides. So we did, I know we did see your email and Lisa sent you a response. It's certainly a great cause, and I don't remember right offhand because I've been buried in this, what that response was, if that was something we wanted. I think that was something we wanted to talk about at the retreat, maybe. Is that right, Lisa? Or no?
I don't, well, no, not for me. The other items, like larger, yes, but the reason why this is coming up now is overall, there are 4 manufactured home parks that have contacted the city in multiple capacities, right, of needs and challenges. One being rent increases, and we are unable to do rent control in Washington State, right? So general government and Michael and Joan with Regional Housing Council have, and we've also just overall talked about like tenant protections, right? And pulling seniors out, and what does that look like? And that safety net for our vulnerable community members. So I have done an inventory, walked around physically one manufactured home park and looked at repairs. This also stemmed the conversation with Sason Habitat for Humanity and Rebuilding Together Thurston County of some funds they have for repairs that Habitat is unable to use by the end of May. So a partnership of doing repairs of senior homes inside and outside, average $2,500 per home. It can go up and could go down, but the average $2,500. So looking at, fire does smoke alarms, right? What could we do for rent stabilization to offset costs? So that's why I wanted to propose, and with the support of council and the mayor and Lisa, something that is responsive to an emergent need in our community. While the next legislative session is going to happen, there's already an inventory being started with Habitat for Humanity and Rebuilding Together Thurston County of homes. And we know we have 4 manufactured home parks that have been asking for assistance. We know one of those parks has now a food pantry in its mailroom that is emptied every 2 days. So that's one thing that we could do, right? Is offsetting those costs is food insecurity. I would like to propose this as another way to offset increasing rents, is to making sure that their homes are safe and healthy.
So would this be actually, Lieta, are you talking about adding these budget items as we would then supplement the cost or the expenditures of Habitat or Rebuild Thurston County? Is that what you're thinking?
That could be an option, right? That we do a line item for senior repairs, right? And then at the retreat, council retreat, we talk about overall senior protections in Tumwater, right? We have the utility services, the support from fire, the food bank, right? That collaboration. So what I'm asking is a line item saying senior repairs. And then we could define, like, is that low income seniors? And is that, specifically for manufactured home parks? I would say yes for manufactured home parks because we're seeing the need, right? And to start that potentially as a pilot for 2024, and then at the retreat, see if we can expand it and what that could look like. Because the mayor's also talked about what rental assistance look like, right? So that could be something to talk about as well, senior repairs and rental assistance. And so I would like to try this for 2024 so that we're being responsive to critical needs that we're receiving.
Okay. I've taken a note of that, and Lisa and I can talk about that and chat with the mayor or go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Can I ask one, can I ask one more quick question? So, Leah, I think you were talking about, legislative changes. Are we anticipating that there's legislation that's going to be coming down to help the seniors with, is that what you were saying? Sorry, I'm trying to play catch up here.
Every
So-
legislation that passes it, like the last session, bills were introduced and they died, right? So then legislators have been telling seniors, come back next time, come back next time. And the last thing our seniors have is time. So that's why I wanted Tumwater to model the way and do this as we wait for the legislators to catch up and see if they can pass anything to do more senior protections.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
And I can't see everybody. I did scroll down and I didn't see Councilmember Althauser's hand up. So I think you're good for now. Okay. On to 2024. So start with community development. Again, with the grant theme, which is great. We received, as you'll probably recall, EPA grant of $500,000 that our amazing Austin wrote. First grant application he ever did, and he nailed it. And we got $500,000 to study contamination at the brewery site. So that's amazing. And I believe we've already gone through and accepted the grant and all that. We just need the expenditure authority now to do it. Similarly, at the WashDOT site on Capitol, we got a grant for $200,000 to study contamination there. So those are both amazing things that we'll do in 2024. Comprehensive plan update, you've all heard about by now. So we'd like to, we estimate we're going to need about $200,000 worth of consultants to help us navigate through that. And then you're probably aware, but just in case anyone's not, or anyone listening is not, community development has been super busy for a very long time with planning and new land use regulations and all the things that come their way, and building permits and everything else. And I just took a quick look at building permits over the last 10 years, and I don't have a graph of it, but through most of the 2011 through 2018 or so, we were about $400,000 or $500,000 a year in building permits. In 2019, we hit 800,000. In 2020, we hit $1 million, and it's been over $1 million a year in building permits since then. And each year is a new record. So they could really use some additional help in community development. So we're asking for that. And, we need lots of help in a lot of places in the city, and that's okay. We are a growing city, and so we need to keep up with some things. So another item, Councilmember Swarthout, I'll pause and.
Thank you. On that slide then, so it looks like it's revenue plus expenses on that one then, because it sounds like, the 5 and the 200,000 are going to be, that will be reimbursed, and then the other ones are going to be additional expenses then? We're putting all those together? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So these, the way we have to account for everything, these will all be listed as expenses and will increase the expenditure amount of the budget overall. But with the grant funded programs, we'll get that money back later as reimbursement. So in the end, it'll wash out, but we do need to increase the expenditure authority in the budget to get there.
And Troy, correct me if I'm mistaken, but we anticipate, Eileen, also getting grants from Department of Commerce for some of the comp plan work. But I think Troy and I decided until they were actually fully secured and awarded, we were gonna wait to show those. But we do anticipate this $334,000 that you see for service providers and the senior planner to be at least initially or through those grant proceeds, or a portion of those costs.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. And I did check with Mike and Brad on that, and we have applied for those grants. We're feeling pretty good about getting them. They're non-competitive, which is makes it easier. We just haven't gotten the final word on an award yet. Okay. Okay, so you may or may not be aware from prior budgets that Karen has asked for a city attorney, I think, for quite a while now. I know she asked for one in the last budget, and that did not get funded. What did get funded in the last budget was a risk manager, and that was you may or may not know, the former HR director. Part of their job was risk. And it's getting to be a bigger and bigger job as the city grows. And so we were going to add a risk manager position. When Lisa came on board, and me and Michelle and Lisa and Karen all started talking about this position, we decided it would be a better use of city resources and a more efficient use of resources to hire an assistant city attorney who could also manage risk for us, and also back up Karen, rather than just be a risk manager and can't really do anything else. So we thought that would be a very good fit. Talked about, again, audit costs continue to go up, insurance continues to go up. And then the last one on this slide is the Ready Rebound program, which is actually written into the fire collective bargaining agreement. And we just forgot to put it in the budget. So we'll add that in.
One more thing, Troy, on the assistant city attorney, just to clarify. So the budget for the risk manager was, I believe, 130. Is that about right? So the idea, or 140. So the idea would be that instead of using that 140 for a risk manager, we use it, we use that for the assistant city attorney, and then hope to realize some savings in professional services in the attorney's office to sort of make up that delta between 170 and 140. If that makes sense.
Yes, and that's correct. And thank you for pointing that out. And that's the way I go through and do this, I'm pointing out all these expenses, pointing out revenue where I can, but this isn't really revenue. But it is offset by, some of this was already, a huge chunk of this was already budgeted. So there will be some savings there.
And the department directors are super thrilled about this because it is a bottleneck trying to get some of our agreements through the legal process, because Karen is only one person and she's fantastic. But the hope would be to be able to alleviate some of that burden on her and facilitate some of the agreements getting through the process quicker.
Yeah, makes it tough to let her take vacation sometimes. Okay. In the executive department, mentioned recording fees. So that's just kind of, something that carries on from year to year. We'd like to get some lobbyist services, and this would be for the Habitat Conservation Plan. And the hope with this is that it would be an investment that ends up reaping us some great dividends in the near future. If we can get some state funding or some federal funding to get a jump start on the whole HCP. Obviously we're going to need, we talked before about buying gopher credits, and not that that's not a possibility anymore, but it's looking more and more like we just need to find some large swaths of land that contain gophers. We need to mitigate that and improve it. And it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of money. And so we're really hoping to get some state or federal funding to help out with that.
Can I ask a question about that? Is that in addition to, so that's in addition to the lobbyist we currently contract with for state legislative stuff generally?
Yeah.
So this would actually supplement what they need in terms of the budget for 2024 for them to continue providing services to us in 2024. And then they actually, Strategies 360 actually has a federal arm, so we wouldn't necessarily need a different lobbying firm it would likely just be somebody else in their firm that focuses on federal projects.
Okay, so it's not theoretically an increase of 36 for the state portion because we pay 24 for the state budget currently. So that's only an increase of actually 12, but the 36 for federal is new.
Yes, I believe that's accurate, right?
Okay.
Seems accurate. Yes.
Thank you.
I don't recall what we had before, so I just, this is what I was putting in. Okay, this here, now we have a twofer for you. So City Hall remodel. So this is also one of the coming attractions. So you'll get this a little early. So we started, well, we've already got in the budget, we have a chunk of money to remodel the finance department, rebuild the front counter and all of that. So we were going to start doing that. And then we started looking around in the executive area. And as people are coming back to the office more, we have, if anyone's listening and interested, we have some real vintage desks and furniture and things in there, 1985 era, from when City Hall was built. It's some pretty amazing solid wood stuff. It's antiqued. It's worn in and fixed height. And anyway, it's just not it's not working great these days for office space or for cubicle space. And so we'd like to we started talking about making better, more efficient use of that space, buying some new furniture, possibly tearing down a wall. We have a vintage mail room also, which I think you all have a mailbox in. That doesn't get used for much more than your mailboxes because, we don't process our own utility bills anymore. Some of that stuff has been outsourced. So we've got some space that has some opportunity to be better used. And then that kind of led into, so our thought was, okay, well, let's do this. Let's ask for some money so we can update this space. I think it's the only part of City Hall that hasn't been upgraded at some point. So then we started talking about, you'll recall a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, we had a Homeland Security audit that recommended some changes to City Hall to make it safer and more secure for our staff and for the assets that we have there. So there's that piece of it. We haven't implemented any of those recommendations yet. And then we also have this investment grade audit, energy audit that's going on, which should be done pretty soon. And that's being spearheaded by Alyssa, our sustainability coordinator. And when we get the results of that back, that's all of the city buildings, but City Hall being one of the largest, I'm sure they'll come back with some recommendations on that. So the more we talked about it, the more we thought, let's pump the brakes on that for now. Let's get the result of this other audit, and then there might be some grant opportunities there, energy efficiency opportunities. So let's get the results of that audit, have a larger conversation about it, and see what we want to do there. And so that's something we will work on and bring back probably in the next budget cycle to talk about. So it was added into this amendment, and now we're taking it out. So okay, and Parks and Recreation. I think I already mentioned the forklift. If not, that's one of those inflation and supply chain things where they need to replace a forklift. It costs twice as much as it used to. So that's that. We have a department assistant down in Parks that's doing an amazing job, and they would like to promote her from a department assistant 1 to a department assistant 2. And then you'll recall from when we built this biennial budget, we had the volunteer coordinator position reinstated, I guess, one of the COVID casualties. It was originally put in the budget as a half-time FTE. We bumped that in the budget to a 3/4, and now we'd like to bump it to a full FTE. And then similarly, the arts specialist position is only half FTE, and we think it's too much work for just a half FTE. We'd like to bump that to a full as well. Okay, for transportation and engineering, we'd like to do a couple of reclasses for some project coordinators and some construction engineers. These are just changes in classifications to be more competitive. Couple new project inspectors. Right now for project inspectors, we are hiring a lot of that out. We're paying our current inspectors overtime to try to keep up with the demands for work. So I didn't put a dollar amount on those because there depends on the project. So a lot of that is utility work, some streets. We'd like to get an additional maintenance worker for streets with all the roundabouts and the landscaping on the sides of the roads and things like that. It's just a lot to keep up with. And so I'd like to keep up with that. And then a new utility engineer, which would be 100% utility funded. And we'll stay on the utilities. We've talked about the South Puget Sound lease. I think what I haven't mentioned before about that, we talked about how much it was going to cost, and it was a big surprise. One nice thing about that is Water Resources is able to make some one-time cost savings in 2023 from their current budget, which will help offset some of those capital costs to remodel that building at South Puget Sound. And then insurance again. And then this will be the biggest item you see today for sure. The Israel Road water main. I'm sure you've noticed the construction outside of City Hall as you drive in. And that was scheduled in the CFP to take place somewhere between 2022 and 2024. It was in the budget in 2022, but was not done in that time frame. So they're doing that work now. It just did not get rolled into the new budget when the old budget expired. And so that's a big number, but at least it's the utility and not the general fund.
Okay, so we have to figure out 42 million or $4.2 million then? Is that what?
Yeah, so that'll
be covered.
It'll be covered by the water utility because it's a water main, and it's basically come from, so it's money they would have spent in 2022, so that ended up going and increasing their fund balance, and so now we'll take that back out of their fund balance to pay for this. And so including it in the amendment is just that it was actually kind of a neat thing with the new system. So our new ERP system is part of it is up and running. Actually, the way we found this was they went to pay an invoice on this contract and they got an error message from the system that says you don't have any budget. And so they called finance and said, help, we're trying to pay this bill. And so we dug in and figured that out and helped them get the contractor paid because they were due a bunch of money. So the positive of that for sure is the new system is working as intended. So people can't spend money above what they're budgeted without a hard stop. And they have to contact finance and figure something out. So that's a great internal control and it's working. But yes, it's going to be the money was there to do it. It was planned in the capital facilities plan. It just the timing of it and not getting it added to the new budget. Okay, and just a couple more things on in ER&R, again, insurance, forklift. Some on the IT side of ER&R, we have an opportunity to do some improvements at TCOM, which will help improve the reliability of fire of the TCOM services with fire and police. And then we have a department assistant in IT that we'd like to move from half-time to three-quarter time to help with increasing workloads. And this one is really
Hey,
cool.
Troy,
Yes.
sorry, can I ask about, since you were on IT, I know we had conversations a few months ago, April, longer than a few months ago, regarding council laptops or cell phones. Was that budgeted in this budget? And is there any expectation to get them in 2023, or is it going to be 2024?
I think you should have those in 2023. I think Lance has started rolling those out. The fact that you haven't got yours yet makes me think I need to check in with him and see when you all can expect those. I think he got at least one of the council members up and running on theirs already. So that should be really soon, but I'm going to take another note very briefly.
Thanks, Troy.
I believe everything is here and is set up or nearly set up. Everything, imaged and ready to go. We'll check in with him on that and get back to you. Okay. Despite the cool glasses, this is not a picture of me. But this is a happy, balanced budget kind of picture is the best thing I could find. For non-rep staff, we already have budgeted a 4% COLA. The way we normally figure that, it could have been as high as 6.5, but it's a whole lot better than the 9.1 from last year. Our plan was to stay with the 4% that's budgeted, and as a small extra, right now the way we do insurance for non-reps, basically the cafeteria plan, the employee is covered 100%, but dependents are only covered at about 75%. Teamsters, police, and fire are all have much better coverage in that scenario. And so we'd like to bump up the non-reps a little bit. We'd be going from 75 to 80%, which is a net cost of about $113,000 for all the non-reps. And the great thing is that fits within what was already budgeted for benefits for the non-reps. So it's not an actual budget increase, but since it's kind of a change to what we want to do, thought we'd bring it up here and be transparent and talk about it. Okay, and then, so this is total 2024 all funds, summary of all the things we've been through. That represents about a total of a $7 million increase, but 4.2 million of that is the water main project that we talked about. Other big ones, all funds, including general fund, 800,000 in insurance. The contamination being, that means those two projects, the EPA grant at the brew house or the old brewery and the WSDOT property, comprehensive plan, and the South Puget Sound lease, the new assistant city attorney. Those big ticket items account for 6.6 million of that 7 million. And then general fund, total increase for 2024 overall would be 1.7 million. And then we saw the little crossover here, since this is not all funds but just general fund. That 700,000 for those environmental studies is included in the general fund, as well as several of these other things. We've got the transportation master plan in there, audits. All those big ticket items come to about 1.4 million of that 1.7. And then, so general fund, 1.7 billion total expenditures, 900,000 roughly in that extra revenue in the form of grants, for a net increase of 836,000 for 2024. And this is our next pause for questions.
I don't have any questions, but it could have been a lot worse looking at other jurisdictions who have had to do some pretty significant cuts in all their departments. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Oh, good. I haven't had, I've been too busy working on these things to be able to talk to my peers. But I've heard a few things anecdotally that some people are having some struggles. So I'm pretty happy too. So glad to hear that. Council members Forsythe, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, and this is hopefully like a dub, but and so this doesn't factor in some of the extra things that like Leetta had been talking about. So we'll be looking at perhaps increasing that number if we're able to fund some of the requests that we've had done as far as like she had proposed, like in the senior savings and stuff.
Yeah, that part is not included in this presentation. So
Okay.
that's something we'll have some discussions about and bring back to you.
Okay.
Okay. So the coming attractions. The fun part and the peak of the party here. Our new HR director is in the process of doing a non-rep salary survey. We mentioned earlier with the benefits package that the non-reps have been trailing behind the represented units. And that's true with benefits, and it's also true with salaries and COLAs. And we've actually reviewed a list of COLAs going back 20 years. And it's been quite a stark difference between reps and non-reps. So that's some work that's going on in the background that'll possibly come to you in the next budget cycle. Not something for 2024, but kind of an overall bigger picture thing. And speaking of represented folks, we have current negotiations going on with the Police Guild. Teamsters have either just started or will be starting in the very near future. And then I think next year will be fire. We talked about, I brought up insurance too many times in our last two meetings. We are going to have an insurance expert from WCIA come and give a talk at a work session in the near future to explain, why are these increases so big and so fast and what's going on. And then obviously next year we're almost into 2024 and we'll be starting a new biennial budget process. So it's definitely great to have a year off, and we're going to have a lot of work ahead of us next year in terms of the budget. I mentioned City Hall, so I won't go over that again. Yep, and that's everything: safety and security, environmental upgrades. So those are the preview of some coming attractions. So having finished today, next step will be in a couple more weeks, November 21st. We will come to the full city council, do probably a shorter presentation than today, but presentation nonetheless. We'll hold a public hearing, and then either adoption of the budget that day, if everyone's in agreement, or we could kick that off until December 5th. And that is the last slide, and I'm going to stop sharing so we can see, so we can all see each other. Any last questions on anything else?
I'm good as long as senior repairs for $25,000 is in there. All the other stuff, I understand that we could talk about at the retreat. And if anything does come up that's immediate, we always have an option to amend the budget. So I'm good with where we're at today. So thank you, Troy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thing everyone else.
Oh, I was just curious, we'll find out, like, what's the Homeland Security audit all about? As far as for our IT, is that internal, external? What are we talking about there? And then, where are you gonna put these new bodies that we're hiring?
Yeah, so the Homeland Security audit, I wasn't directly involved with it, but they did stop by finance and we had a chat for a little bit. It was mostly focused on water resources actually and protecting our utility infrastructure and especially our safe water drinking supply. But it did also go and look at IT. You know, a lot of our pumps and wells and different things are controlled electronically. And so IT is, excuse me, my dog just decided to moan while I'm on video and mic. That's great. Yeah, so physical security around our utility assets, which now includes our IT assets, you know, the Internet of Things that you hear about. And City Hall security. You know, our servers, our main infrastructure is in City Hall. And then as they walk through, they notice so many things. You know, they came through the front door and walked around the utility billing counter by the main entrance. And they kind of made some comments like, wow, you have no protection for your staff and like no plexiglass. And you know, where would people, if an active shooter came in, where would people run and hide? And it's like, it's really good questions. So it was just a lot of things like that. And I don't have the full report or recommendations, but that's a lot of what I understood of that Homeland Security audit. And then as far as the new staff and where we put them, we've got some really good ideas, I think, to start with rearranging some of the space that we already have. And if we did, well, with water resources moving over to South Puget Sound, that's going to create some space downstairs for, you know, the engineers and those types of folks. And then upstairs, like with the new assistant city attorney, we've got some ideas to move people around, move some offices, rearrange some of that space. You know, if you go back to where Hannah used to sit, there's basically like two people in this humongous long area, surrounded by like two printers and large paper, like large files for papers and things like that. We've gone electronic with most of our documents now. We don't need a printer at everybody's desk. And that wall in between there and the mailroom, we did learn is not a supporting wall. That could come down. We could get rid of a bunch of the paper files that are just opposite the mailroom there, send those to offsite storage, and potentially make either offices or more cubicles or some better use of space there.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Troy's right, and we do have a plan for the temporary increase in staff, just moving people around, making better use of the spaces, the offices that we have, and maybe doing a few upgrades in terms of furniture. And lighting seems to be an issue for a lot of our staff in terms of migraines right now, that we've got the old fluorescent lighting. We've made some adjustments, I think, in finance already, but maybe extending a few of those lighting updates back into the executive piece to help our folks that have migraine issues, but trying to make more efficient utilization of the space we have and take some time to really understand before we start moving a bunch of walls and the front counter, you know, take into consideration this input from Homeland Security, and being a little bit more intentional how we approach any kind of a significant remodel of the space and not piecemeal it, is sort of the intent. So interim fixes that don't, for 2024, that don't preclude future, more intentional, more comprehensive upgrades and changes in 2025.
Any other questions? No, I think this is really good and I think easy to understand. And I agree, Leetta, this is a lot less painful than some other jurisdictions are going through right now. So I appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Sure appreciate your time. And look at that, we didn't even keep you past 5 o'clock. That is awesome.
All right. So with that, I believe that we are adjourned. So thank you, everyone.